The topic of the day is engineering strategy. And I'm really curious about your journey and how you discovered the necessity for defining engineering strategy. And it's an artifact. It's not people just dreaming things and throwing things on whiteboards and actual things. So you walk through sort of your discovery process on that document, that artifact.
Well, the best definition of strategy I found comes from Richard Rumelt. And he has like a handful of books out there. Just last year, he published a book called The Crux. And then previously, he wrote Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. But a ton of thinking about what makes strategy good, and a ton of thinking about what makes strategy useless. Mm-hmm. And why so often when people talk about, like, oh, we're rolling out a new strategy, people kind of roll their eyes. Like, this is just a waste of time. So what is his definition that he uses? His definition is basically threefold. There's a diagnosis, like what is the reality you live in? And this is where most people mess up, is they like refuse to kind of engage with the reality that they're actually experiencing. Then the second piece is they have kind of guiding policies, like how do you want to approach something? So that for a diagnosis, it could be that we at Uber, we had a bunch of teams and I didn't have the authority to tell them what technologies to use or how to develop software. But I was also accountable for servicing them as a platform team. That was just the reality. You can say that's not fair. It doesn't matter. It's just fairness is irrelevant. This is just like what's real. Right. And the guiding policies is like, how do you want to deal with that diagnosis? And so my case was like, hey, you know, in one case, in terms of just like hosting compute, we're like, hey, we're going to give them a container. It's going to be a Docker container. They can put anything they want in the Docker container. All we will provide is routing to and from that container and the ability to scale up and scale down. That's it. Nothing else. And then the last part that Richard Rumelt talks about is coherent actions. And so his biggest concern is basically this idea of strategy that is inert, strategy that doesn't do anything. So you have a lot of companies which are like, our strategy is to be the best in the world. Like, okay, but like, what does that mean? And so Rumelt has this idea of coherent actions, where you take the guiding policies and you have to translate them into like actual things you will do. Otherwise, they aren't. It's not a real strategy because they're just like throwing kind of words on the wall. But I think in engineering context, I'm a little bit less worried about coherent action, because for me, most engineering strategy is about how do we narrow kind of the degrees of freedom for future decisions, as opposed to how do I change like the revenue in this business unit this quarter or something like that.
Right.